a 4-time individual poetry slam champion who's been focused in the documentary Slam Nation. She's the author of 5 poetry collections. The most recent is called Blood Dazzler. It looks like this. It is an absolutely unbelievably powerful book. And it was a National Book Award finalist. If you folks don't know what a National Book Award is, this is the writer's equivalent of getting nominated for a Grammy or an Oscar. It's it, okay? And she also wrote Tea House of the Almighty, which was her second to last book, which was a National Poetry Series winner. She has authored children's books, a companion book to the PBS documentary Africans in America, and her work has been adapted to the stage, and a dance company in the city just performed a collaboration of Blood Dazzler, which is very cool. Patricia Smith is a fearless poet. She talks about there is really nothing you can't write about, and this is definitely lives in her work. Her books are often collections of persona poems, and a persona poem, folks, is a poem in the voice of a character. Okay? Timely and often pulled from the news. She has written in the voice of a child who has been abused. She's written in the voice of Mrs. Bush. She's written in the voice of a skinhead. There's a wild assortment of voices. Blood Dazzler, which was her most recent book, tells the story of Hurricane Katrina and the voices of the people who suffered through it. But not just the people, it's also the voice of the hurricane that you hear throughout the book. These are powerful, moving poems of loss and survival, struggle and endurance. Patricia's work gives voice to the horrors of that day and makes clear once again that poetry's role is to speak for those who cannot, and to voice our outrage and our anger, and most of all, our compassion. So it was with great pleasure that I introduced Patricia Smith.
You did a really good intro. Okay. How's everybody doing? Good? Good. All right, let me do this the right way. Thank you. That was an absolutely wonderful introduction. I was sitting there like, I can't wait till she comes. Oh, wait a minute, that's me. Sounds good. I'm very, very happy to be here. I moved to the New Jersey area from Tarrytown, New York, and luckily, with all our planets converging, I live like right basically down the street in Howell. So I was able to kind of, and so I can just come here and just hang out and try to look like a student, which is my days are over for that. Anyway, okay. I start all my readings out. Remember the lights before? Remember when they were down a little bit? Was that not good?
Okay.
Was that all right? However they were a second ago.
These ones.
Thank you, as she screws up the recording.
They can edit.
Oh, is that okay with everybody? Yeah. All right, good. I start all my readings out with the same poem. And I've tried, after about 5 or 6 years, I said, I really should, everyone's heard this, I should stop. And so I started trying to use some other pieces. And then I realized there was a reason that I was doing it, because the poem that I was doing kind of roots me and reminds me why I write poetry in the first place. For a long time, I was going and doing a residency in Miami with a group of 6th graders. And the first time I went there, I was very idealistic, and I went in saying, oh, I'm here to teach you poetry. And the area that I was in had a very high incidence of drug use. So a lot of the kids had lost parents or brothers or sisters to AIDS. And I came in, bounding in, saying, I'm here to teach you poetry. And they're like, well, how are you going to make our lives better? What do you have that's going to change, the way we feel about where we live? So there's a little girl there named Nicole, and her mother had died the week before, and she was already back in school. And she wanted me to teach her to write a poem about her mother. So I do this poem first, I realize, because it reminds me of the power that the words have to move you from one place in your head to a safer place, which is what she was asking me to help her do. So this is dedicated to the 6th grade class at Lily C. Evans Elementary School in Dade County, Miami, which they made me promise to say every time I did the poem. I am astonished at their mouthful names. Lacanicia, Chevalane, DeLeo, Fumaleo. Their ragged rebellions and lip gloss pouts and all those pants drooped as drapery. I rejoice when they kiss my face, whisper wet and urgent in my ear, make me their obsession because I have brought them poetry. They shout me raw, bruise my wrist with their pulling, and brashly claim me as mama as they cradle my head in their little laps, waiting for new words to grow in my mouth. You. Angry, jubilant, weeping poets. We are all saviors, reluctant hosannas in the limelight. But you knew that, didn't you? So let us bless this 6th grade class. 40 cracking voices, 40 nappy heads, and all of them raise their hands when I ask. They have all seen the Reaper, grim in his heavy robe, pushing the button for the Dead Project elevator, begging for a break at the corner pawn shop, cackling wildly in the back pew of the Baptist church. I asked the death question, and 40 fist punched the air. Me! An O'Neill matchstick crack child watched his mother's body become a claw. And 9-year-old Tico Jefferson, barely big enough to lift the gun, fired a bullet into his throat when Mama bended his back with a lead pipe. Tamika cried into a sofa pillow when Daddy blasted Mama into the north wall of their cluttered one-room apartment. Danya's cousin, gone in a drive-by, dark window, click, 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 gone, says Danya, her tiny finger a barrel, the thumb a hammer. I am astonished at their losses. And yet when I read a poem about my own hard-eyed teenager, Jeffrey asks, is he dead yet? Cannot be comprehended. My 18-year-old still pushing and pulling his own breath. And 40 faces pity me, knowing that I will soon be as they are, numb to our bloodied histories, favoring the Reaper with a thumbs up and a wink, hearing the question and shouting, me, Miss Smith, I know somebody dead. Can poetry hurt us, they ask me, before crawling into my words to sleep. I love you, Nicole says. Nicole wearing my face, pimples peppering her nose, and she is as black as angels are. Nicole's braids kissed with match flame to seal them. And can you teach me to write a poem about my mama, Miss Smith? I mean, you write about your daddy, and he's dead. Can you teach me to remember my mama? A teacher tells me this is the first time Nicole has admitted that her mother is gone. Murdered by slim silver needles and a stranger rifling through her blood, the virus pushing her skeleton through for Nicole to see. And now this child with rusty knees and mismatched shoes sees poetry as her scream and asks me for the words to build her mother again, replacing the voice, stitching on the lost flesh. So poets, as we take the stage, as we flirt and sin and rejoice behind microphones, remember Nicole. She knows that we are here now, and she is an empty vessel waiting to be filled. And she is waiting, and she's waiting, and she waits. The first trip I got to take as a poet was to Paris. And I remember being with my girlfriend, and we went to the Louvre. And you know how when Americans go somewhere, they try to act like they already know everything? So it was like, oh, well, that would be this, blah, 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 you know. So we were like, the whole time. So we're in the Louvre, and we were so bad in the Louvre that we were taking flash photos of things that are supposed to crumble if you take flash photos of them. Or, you know, the barriers that are supposed to keep people like me away from the paintings. We were doing this, we were going, touching the paintings like that, you know. So this is about the joy of discovery. And this is for my friend Patricia Zamora, and this is called Doing the Louvre. You're a junkie, just like I am. After we've dumped our husband in the Louvre Cafe to sip the steaming tea and chew on his poetry, we're off like schoolgirls, screeching in duet, dazzled by the bright eternal gasp of ancient things. We've got no business here, homegirl and compañera. We've got no business closing our mouths around this sharp, exquisite language or savoring the sweet tongue squeeze of pastries, shining cakes, and shaved chocolates. We're of simpler stock, city and country dust, collard greens, moon pies, bullet holes, and basement slow dancers. We are shamelessly American, rough street girls with rusty knees, the flip side of cocky Parisian wisp in slim cashmere coats the color of tobacco. Girlfriend, you and I are too much scream for this place, but you're a junkie just like I am. Too long denied access to official beauty, we walk these streets with our mouths open and faces tilted up, swallowing everything, swallowing it all, much too much scenery and sound for our thin American throats. We gawk at cathedrals with their gargoyles bleached to an eerie snarl by bright slashes of moon. Say goodbye, we mean yes. Good morning, we mean how much. As for bread, we need the toilet. We are amazed that no one is asking for all of this back, that we are allowed to bask in this city's light. I can still hear my mama as plain and practical as a cast iron skillet. Child, you need to stop all that foolishness over there in France? Ain't no black folks over there no how. But I know you, old friend, with your bright burnished tangle of hair and deep laugh, and right now these halls belong to us. There are bad girls loose in the Louvre. Girls soft as gunshots. Girls nourished and fueled by silvers, silks, and the stone gaze of Napoleon. We laugh at the smashed noses of Egyptian rulers, stare at the tiny mummified feet of a young girl, mistake Goya for Gauguin, and rub what surfaces we can, including the marble private parts of towering deities. When we say things like, "Hey, I think I saw that on a postcard once," or, "Do you know how old this thing is? How can the world help but love us?" We would give Venus our arms. After 8 hours clicking our hungry heels and snapping illicit flash photos in dark halls brimming with ancient music, we finally find the Mona Lisa, alone, caged and antiseptic behind that glass every woman wears, and we wonder how best to free her, knowing she's a junkie just like we are. She longs for our wild voices, our naive and accidental beauty. She's aching to ditch that frame and skip these hallowed halls with the homegirls, mistake the obscene for the exquisite, and gaze at unsolved mysteries that just for once are not her own. Thanks. I watch a lot of bad movies. It's kind of like a habit of mine. And if I'm on the way, I can be like 10 minutes late for work and have the TV on for backdrop noise and be on my way out the door, hand on the doorknob, foot out the door, look over at the television set, and Clash of the Titans is on. I'm so not going to work that day. Especially if it's the skeletons fighting. I'm like, okay, no, I don't need this job. I'll just do this. So this is a poem, a persona poem, that was inspired by a scene in Clash of the Titans. Those of you know Clash of the Titans. Who's seen Clash of the Titans? Okay, so there's a scene in there with Medusa. Everybody knows who Medusa is, right? And Medusa's story, Medusa has snakes for hair, and when she looks at men, they turn to stone. Okay, hard luck life. All right, but I started thinking, okay, how did Medusa become Medusa? So what she wound up doing is she made love to the wrong man, which is how a lot of us get in trouble. But she made love to Poseidon in Athena's temple. And Athena was like, oh, no, you didn't. She made love to Poseidon, and Athena was like, could she really be, what? So Athena decided that she would do these things to Medusa and change her. So I wrote a persona poem in Medusa's voice as her body is going through these changes. Okay? All right, 3-minute introduction, 1-minute poem. I have to sound sexy and Medusa-like first. Okay. Poseidon was easier than most. He calls himself a god, but he fell beneath my fingers with more shaking than any mortal. He wept when my robe fell from my shoulders. I made him bend his back for me. Listen to his screams break like waves. We defile that temple the way it should be defiled, squirming and bucking our way from corner to corner. You know, Athena probably got a real kick out of that. I'm sure I'll be hearing from her. She'll give me nightmares for a week or so that I can handle. Or she'll turn the water in my well into blood. I'll scream when I see it, and that'll be that. Maybe my first child will be born with the head of a fish. I'm not even sure it was worth it. Poseidon pounding away at me like a madman, losing his immortal mind because of the way my copper skin swells in moonlight. Now my arms smoke and itch. Hard scales are rising on my wrists like armor. Come on, Athena. He was just another lay, and not a particularly good one at that, even though he can spit steam from his fingers. I won't touch him again. Promise. And we didn't mean to drop to our knees in your temple, but our bodies were so hot and misaligned. It's not every day a gal gets to sample a god, you know that. Why are you being so rough on me? I feel my eyes twisting, the lids crusting over and boiling, the pupils glowing like red coals. Athena, woman to woman, could you have resisted him? Would you have been able to wait for the proper place, the right moment to jump those immortal bones? Now my feet are tangled with hair, my ears are gone. My back is curving and my lips have grown numb. My garden boy just shattered at my feet. Damn it, Athena! Take away my father's gold. Send me away to live with lepers. Give me a pimple or two. But my face, to have men never again gaze at my face, growing stupid in anticipation of that first touch. How can any woman live like that? How can I watch their warm bodies turn to rock when their only sin was desiring me? They just want to see me sweat. They just want to touch my face and run their fingers through my hair. Is it moving? This has very slight sexual content. Somebody started to applaud. It's not bad. This is, this is another, I'm gonna do another persona piece. And this one I'm gonna do because it lets you know how accessible personas are. When I was growing up, my father used to take me to the barber shop with him every Saturday. And so that was kind of like my culture. And I learned how to deal with, older people and how to deal with adults and all that. And the barbershop, especially a black barbershop on Saturday morning, and this may be every barbershop, but this barbershop, the barber talked about everybody. It was like gossip central. So there was always a big picture window, and everybody who passed by outside, the barber had a bit of gossip about him. And then sometimes he would forget you were sitting there, he'd start talking about you. He'd go, oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. So, but then another thing he was talking about was how many ladies he was going to have. Even though he hadn't had a woman since the Eisenhower administration. But he was always just talking about, I'm going to get that one, I'm going to get that one, I'm going to get that one. And you were like, oh, yeah, whatever. So years later, when I took my son to a barbershop, even though it was a different city and different time and everything, the barbershop hadn't changed. The barber was still doing the same thing. Everything on the walls was the same. It smelled the same. Everything was great. So this is a persona poem in the voice of a barber that I knew in Chicago by the name of Terrell. And like I said, there's a little content, but this is like, what was in my head was this running commentary that Terrell would always do while we were in the barbershop. So close your eyes, imagine you're in a barbershop in Chicago, on the west side of Chicago right now, okay? All right. Well, look who comes walking into my barbershop still wearing that jerry curl. Man, it's 2000. Nobody's got time for that grease trickling it all down their neck, especially hot as it is out there. Let me cut that down. Let those naps grow out. A couple of weeks, I'll hook you up with a fade. The sisters don't like putting their hands in that greasy mess. And did y'all see that child Aretha on stage at the president's thing, trailing all that fur like she's Queen Elizabeth and all that fat underneath it? I ain't never seen no black woman with money stay fat. Chicken see her coming, even the bones get scared. That child will eat a spaghetti strap. What's that song she sang? Ain't no way? Well, I guess it sure ain't. She got one chance though. If you stay alive long enough, time will make you skinny. I just don't know if she got that much time. Oh yeah, that gal I was telling y'all about got enough ass to balance a drink on. I'm gonna be knee deep in that come Friday night, my name ain't Terrell Anderson Jr., and they got my hand tussling in y'all heads. Man, she don't know me yet, but she will. I bet she done already heard about how my love making then put a few sisters on crutches. How I done whipped some of this nature on them, now they drooling, barking like dogs. Hell, y'all could laugh if y'all want. Thomas, you ask your sister. And you over there, ask your mama. They say size don't matter, but it do if it's this size, man. I have to bind this to my leg, it would scare y'all out of here. Come next week, y'all can ask that gal y'all just seen. She'll be passing by that one in a wheelchair, mark my words. And Thomas, one too many times, here comes the sexual part. Thomas, one too many times I've seen your wife over there across the street in the butcher shop, and the meat she asking for ain't what makes it to your table for supper. Okay, that's about as bad as it gets. She's all behind the counter like she's interested in the butcher's business. What she's interested in is the butcher's business. And you better get stuff at home together. Get that stuff at home together, my man, before she get a taste of that sausage she's selling. Then you'll be up here talking about she gone, she gone. Man, I'm telling you, women are liberated nowadays. You can't be climbing up on top of them, poking them like you got somewhere else to be in 5 minutes. And every time you get a chance, there you are up in the Continental, sniffing all up Deborah Ann's young butt like she wants something for you besides that money you always waving around. Man, let me tell you, anytime you see flies buzzing around a woman and it ain't summer, it's time to move on to another woman. I don't know, your wife got some nice legs on her though. If the butcher don't take up on it, I might get in line. And wait, what's wrong? What did you say? Huh? What's wrong with your boy? Damn near 40 years old, no woman in sight. Could be he just ugly though. You know, the other night I heard a blind woman turning him down. Said she could just imagine how ugly he was. Now, you better bring your head over here under this razor. You're talking about some activator. You better let me activate that stuff out of there. Man, let me tell you, this is 2000. Listen carefully now. Black man is free now. Superfly done flew. I've been doing this 40 years. This is Terrell's Afrocentric Barbershop Fade Palace and Wild Style Emporium. Now put your ass in my chair and put your head in my hands.
This is fine. Thanks.
Here are the low monthly payments and interest rate as we promised. Here's where they triple. The rest of this is really just here so that we get your house when you can't pay us back.
Predatory lenders are never this easy to spot. Call us and protect yourself with the facts.
Impossible.
It's never too early to start reading to your kids.
Are you prepared for what awaits you?
There are amazing possibilities when you open a child's mind to reading. Log on to the Library of Congress website and let the journey begin.
All right. I'm going to read one poem, two poems from Tea House, and then I'm going to read from Dazzler. Okay? This one, I'm originally from Chicago, and in Chicago, while I was still living there was an incident where a young girl was assaulted in the stairwell of a housing project, and she was sexually assaulted, and whoever attacked her sprayed insecticide into her eyes and down her throat. And she couldn't see or speak for a long time. So every night at the end of the news, they would have an update on this child's condition. And because they couldn't say her name, they called her Girl X. And so this poem is for her. The first thing we took away was your name. We erased the bleak shame from each syllable, blurred the image of your tiny body broken into networked sound bites, snippets of videotape with a swollen face X'd out. X, as in she is no longer a good girl. X, as in two simple lines crossing where a beating heart should be. You were little, like we don't want to remember. You were stutter-folded. You were beaten liquid on those lonely stairs. Your skin was slashed. You were raped with a fist and sticks, insecticide sprayed into your seam and down the tunnel of your throat. He must have held your mouth open, stretching the circle, leaving moons in your lip. The violation left you blind and without tongue, wrecked the new clock of you. You were jump rope and double time and pigeon-toed, navy blue kids with round toes and soles like paper, jelly sandwiches and grape-smashed fingers. You, my ashy-kneed rose, my missing rib, splintered and flinching through your death sleep. In which direction do we pray? To recreate you, they relied on ritual. Weeping nurses gently parted your hair, the teeth of the comb tipped in rubber, and dried blood showered from your scalp like chips of paint. They rubbed warm oil through the unraveling braids, threaded ribbon through to the ends. We will give you back your life, they said, by pretending you are still alive. Lowering your ex into a tub of warm water, they scrubbed you with stinging soap, sang songs filled with light and lyric, then dabbed you dry with the brutal sickbed towels, avoiding the left nipple smashed before it began. Wrapping you in the stiff garb of virgins, they told you that you were healed. There in that stark room of beeping machines and blood vials and sterilized silver, they built you a child's body and coaxed your battered heart back inside. Girl, X, the violation left, X, you blind and X, voiceless. And they braided your hair every day, gently, the ritual insane, strands over, under, through, over, under, through, fingers locked in languid weave until the same of it all brought your voice back. The nurses cheered, told you they'd found a cure for history, that the unreal would refuse to be real. Soon, you'll be able to see again, they whispered. I know you never meant to be ungrateful, my rib, when you rose up half and growled this grace. That's okay. You can keep my eyes. I talked earlier about my dad doing the broadcast we did, and my dad is basically the reason that I write. My mother, I'm an only child, and my mother was the disciplinarian. My mother was, a very church-going, kind of no-nonsense, not very emotionally giving or affectionate woman. My father was the rogue. He was absolutely wonderful. Both my parents worked in a candy factory. I don't know why I'm telling you that, but it was the funniest thing. You know malted milk balls in the carton? That's where my parents worked. And they worked there so long that 3 years after my mother retired, if you walked in a room, you would smell sugar because it was in her pores. And I grew up with both my parents smelling like sugar. Therapy helped. My dad is the reason I write, and one of the rituals we used to have at the end of the day is that he would, we'd meet in the kitchen while my mother was off doing something else, and he would teach me to cook. He would say, okay, while we were talking about our day, he would tell me about the candy factory, I'd tell him about school, and he'd say, well, tonight we're gonna cook this. And so every meal that is, part of my mainstay, my cooking repertoire, I got from my father. A lot of them are like Southern recipes. But that time was very special to me because it was my private time, with my dad. And so this is about the first thing that he ever taught me to cook. The recipe for hot water cornbread is simple. Cornmeal, hot water. Mix till sluggish, then dollop in a sizzling skillet. When you smell the burning begin, flip it. When you smell the burning, begin again, dump it onto a plate. You've got to wait for the burning and get it just right. Before the bread cools down, smear it with sweet salted butter and smash it with your fingers. Crumble it up in a bowl of collard greens or buttermilk. Forget that I'm telling you, it's the first thing I ever cooked, that my daddy was laughing and breathing and no bullet in his head when he taught me. Mix it till it looks like quicksand, he'd say, till it moves like a slow song sounds. We'd sit there in the kitchen in the half dark, licking our fingers and laughing at my mother, who was probably scrubbing something with bleach or watching Bonanza or thinking how stupid it was to be burning that nasty old bread in that cast iron skillet. She always used whole milk and eggs and baked her cornbread until it was plump and sugary. And she'd branded me hopeless as a homemaker, too interested in sitting in the kitchen in the half dark, learning nothing at all from a man who had other women and stayed out late on Saturday nights. When I told her that I'd fixed my first ever pan of hot water cornbread and that my daddy had branded it glorious, she sniffed and kept mopping the floor over and over in the same space. So here's how you do it. You take out a bowl, like the one we had with blue flowers and only one crack. You put the cornmeal in it. Then you turn on the hot water and you let it run while you tell the secret about the boy who kissed your cheek after school, or about how you really want to be a reporter instead of a teacher or a nurse like Mama said. And the water keeps running while Daddy says you will be a wonderful writer and you will be famous someday. And when you get famous, if I wrote you a letter and sent you some money, would you write about me? And he is laughing and breathing and no bullet in his head. So you let the water run into this mix until it moves like mud moves at the bottom of a river, which is another thing Daddy said. And even though I'd never even seen a river, I knew exactly what he meant. Then you turn the fire way up under the skillet and you pour in this mix that moves like mud moves at the bottom of a river, like quicksand, like a slow song sounds. That stuff pops something awful when it first hits that blazing skillet. And sometimes Daddy and I would dance to those angry pop sounds. He'd let me rest my feet on top of his while we waltzed around the kitchen and my mother huffed and puffed on the other side of the door. When you are famous, Daddy asked me, will you write about dancing in the kitchen with your father? I say everything I write will be about you. Then you will be famous too. And we dip and swirl and spin, but then he stops and sniffs the air. The thing you have to remember about hot water cornbread is to wait for the burning so you know when to flip it, and then again so you know when it's crusty and done. Then eat it the way we did, with our fingers, our feet still tingling from dancing. But remember that sometimes the burning takes such a long time. And in that time, sometimes, poems are born. Sure? Okay. So people who haven't been to a poetry reading before, you okay? I worry about you. Yeah, everything's all right? Okay. Who hasn't been to a reading before? Okay, you guys all right over here? Good. Okay, so as you heard, Blood Dazzler is a book of poems about Hurricane Katrina. I didn't set out to write a book of poems about Hurricane Katrina, but that's another story. And in the book, Katrina is a woman, so you get to see how she feels as she's gathering strength and as she approaches land, and she's arrogant and she's regretful and she's haughty and she's funny and she's sad and she's a real bitch, it's just kind of the same way women are. Why should we expect a hurricane to have one emotion? We don't. So I'm going to read a poem in Katrina's voice. I'm going to need my glasses for this. This is, this is Katrina as when she first becomes a Category 5 storm, she's already gone through the gathering, over water in the Bahamas, and then there's another poem when she's finally given her name. She tries the name out in her mouth to see how she likes it, and this is when she becomes a Category 5, 8 a.m. Sunday, August 28th, 2005. For days, I've been offered blunt slivers of larger promises. Even flesh, my sweet recurring dream, has been tantalizingly dangled before me. I have crammed my mouth with buildings, brushed aside skimpy altars, snapped shut windows to bright shadow with my fingers, and I warned them soft. You must not know my name. Could there be other weather? Other divas stalking the cringing country with insistent eye? Could there be other rain laced with the slick flick of electric and my own pissed boom? Or could this be it? Finally, my praise day, all my fist at once. Now officially a bitch, I'm confounded by words. All I've ever been is starving, fluid, and noise. So I huff a huge sulk, thrust out my chest, and open wide my solo swallowing eye. You must not know. Scarlet glare fixed on the trembling crescent, I fly. There's also, and I won't read these because I think it's probably, I've kind of idea of the audience and probably not a good idea to read it, but I've got a series of poems in here in the voice of a dog who's left behind. Okay. I'm going to read 3 more from here, then we'll be done. Okay? Those of you who are taking poetry classes, who are taking in poetic form, I'm going to read a sestina. And a sestina, you'll know, has like 6 repeated words, and each stanza you'll hear the words repeated but in different order. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I talked a little bit about today about having the poem ask for the form that it needs. And this is a poem in the voice of an elderly woman. Her name is Ethel Freeman. And everyone saw a picture of Ethel Freeman doing coverage of Katrina. She was waiting for a bus to take her and her son Herbert away from the convention center, and the bus was a long, long time coming. And she kept asking her son, Herbert, is it coming? Is it coming? Huh, baby, is it coming? And he'd say, no, Ma, I don't see it yet. I don't see it, And he covered her against the sun, and finally the bus came, and he went to tell her that the bus was there, and she had died. And the bus driver said, if you don't come with us now, there's no guarantee we can come back and get you. So he covered his mother, and her body stayed there on a sidewalk in the sun for 3 days. So this is, I wanted to write a poem about her and wanted to write it in her voice, but you know how when older people talk, they keep circling around to the same words again and again. So I thought that the sestina, where you're using those 6 words, would be a perfect form for her voice, so that's why. And you'll be able to tell what the words are. Ethel Sestina. Gonna be obedient in this here chair. I'm gonna bide my time and fan against this sun. I ask my boy, and all he says is, wait. He wipes my brow with steam, says I should sleep. I trust his every word. Herbert, my son, I believe him when he says help gonna come. Been so long since all these suffering folks come to this place. Now on the ground round my chair, they keep sweating in my shade, asking my son, could that be a bus they see? It's the sun fooling them, shining much too loud for sleep, making us hear engines and wheels. Not yet though, we gotta wait. Lord, some folks are praying for rain while they wait, forgetting what rain can do. When it comes, it smashes living flat, wakes you from sleep, eats the street, and washes you clean out the chair you be sitting in. Best to praise this sun, shine its dry shine. Lord have mercy, son, is it coming? Such a strong man, my son. Can't help but believe when he tells us to wait. And now, wait some more. I wish some trees would block the sun. We wait. Ain't no white men or buses come, but look. See that there? Get me out this chair. Help me stand on up. Ain't no time for sleeping, because look what's rumbling this way. If you sleep, you're going to miss it. Look there, I tell my son. He don't hear. I'm about to get out this chair, but the ghost in my legs tells me to wait. Wait for the salvation that's sure to come. I see my Savior's face alongside that sun. Nobody sees me running toward the sun. Lord, they think I done gone and fell asleep. They don't hear, come, 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 come. Ain't but one power make me leave my son. I can't wait, Herbert. Lord knows I can't wait. Don't cry, boy. I ain't in that chair no more. I wish you could have come on this journey, son. Seen that old sweet sun lift me out of sleep. I didn't have to wait. And look, see my golden chair? This is the poem that started the book. I set out to write one poem about Hurricane Katrina, and I was driven to write that poem sparked by the story of the 34 nursing home residents who were left behind. Remember? Everybody remember that story? 34, oh, I forgot it was 4 years ago. Okay. 34 in a nursing home in St. Bernard Parish in Louisiana. 34 people were left behind when the administrators of the nursing home basically left them there. And they died. The waters rose to the roof of the nursing home, and everyone there died. So I write persona poems, and what I wanted to do in this poem is I wanted to wind the clock back for a minute and give each of those 34 people a moment of their voice back. Okay? So this poem is in 34 very, very small stanzas. Okay, and I know this is a test for those of you who haven't come to a poetry reading. They're like, 34 stanzas? Oh my. But okay, just imagine, as I did, when I started to do the poem, I thought 34 people who are used to pushing buttons on the side of their bed and having help come. The lights are out, they're pushing the buttons, no one's coming, and the water is rushing into the room. Okay? Now imagine your parents or grandparents in that situation, and we'll go from there. 1. I believe Jesus is hugely who he says he is. The crook of an arm, a shadow threatening my hair, a hellish glare beneath the moon wash, the slapping storm that wakes me, the washing clean. 2. The Lord has touched his lips to my days, blessing me with grave fragrance and awkward new skin. What makes the dust of me smell like a dashed miracle, the underside of everything, what requires me to hear the bones? 3. Before the rain stung me like silver, I had forgotten me. My name was a rude visitor, arriving unannounced, always without a gift, and then leaving too soon. 4. If you knew my alley, it's stinking blue. If you knew dirt-gritted collard greens and a salt pork slick and doused with Tabasco, then you knew me. I know that you've come with my engine and the rest of my skin. You will rise me. 5. Son don't rise, daughter don't know enough to dial a phone. Gets harder to remember how my womb folded because of them, how all of me lumbered with their foolish weight. You see what they done did? How hard and sweet they dropped me here? 6. Clumps of earth in the rising and me too weathered to birth a howl. I sleep in small shatters. I climb the bitten left wall of my heart. In all the places I fall, it is dry. 7. We knew we had been bred for sacrifice. Our overflow of yesterday's too wretched a nudge, our tired hearts borderless and already mapped for the motherland. We reach for the past like it is food and we are starving. Our surfaces are scoured. We are prepared. We are wrapped in white. 8. When help comes, it'll be young men smelling like cigarettes and Chevys. Muscled boys with autumn breath and steel baskets, just the right size for our souls. To save us, they will rub our gums with hard bread. They will offer us water. 9. To cool the fever, you rub the sickness with some wet earth. For swelling, you boil a just plucked chicken and then you douse the hurt in the steam. Always from the position of your knees, you create the savior that you need. And then you wait. Wait. Jesus. Both faith and magic done failed. 10. There is no light, no thin food moving through my arms. Even without machines, I feel my numbers have soared. I'm a sudden second of leaving. I'm cold. And I'm strapped to this country. 11. Daughter, son, I am bursting with this. I'm straining to celebrate the links of our blood. I'm wide aloud, craving something shaped like you. 12. There are no bridges. 13. We are stunned on our scabbed backs. There is the sound of whispered splashing and then this. Leave them. 14. Our Father, which art in heaven. 15. The walls are slithering with spit, tears, and the badness that muddies rivers. We flail in that sin, alive and bended beneath a wretched southern rain. We sip our breath from that filthy ocean. Only some things float. 16. I ain't scared of no wet, no wave. I didn't see more than this. God is in all houses. Just balance the huge noun of him on your tongue. 17. Wait with us. Watch us sleep in this room that looks so much like night, and we're going to wake up. I swear it. To some kind of sun. 18. My name is Earlene, and I'm going to save you my life. Sugar in my veins, a single cloudy eye, and blood when I pee. Half dead. That's what I used to tell them. Hell, I'm already half dead. 20. I've forgotten how to pray. I can't find my knees. I want the man with my needles. I want that sting, those silver holes in my body. I want my needles. I want to sleep. I want somebody's hand. 21. Hallowed be thy name. 22. Hallowed be our names. Call us running boards, the Iceman, Big Band, possum and stewing pots. Twist our heads on snappy necks back to where we dance from. Call us names that are barely necessary. Call us those who do not need these days. 23. Big Easy. I ran your green, rolled in your red dust, and your sun turned the white of me red and the black of me blue. Funny how colored I got, how I absorbed your heat, and how you, without flinching, called me your child. 24. God, we just need some of your glitter. You know those miracles you do? You know the ones you do for no reason at all? 25. I fight the rise with all the guitar left in my throat. Old folks got shit to say, ain't got but a little time to say it. We don't never die quiet. 26. A sudden ocean of everyone's shoulders. 27. And this scripture. Leave them. 28. And I am left No deity hovering, no black hair on my head, all of me thinner than when I began. Fingers of ice climb me, reach my dimming light, and then choke my only angel. 29. I had the rumble hips, I tell you. I was sling back and press curl and big titties with necessary milk. I was somebody's woman. I was the city where the city wasn't. Louisiana, goddamn, you lied to me so lush. 30. I lost my seeing in that war, but I ain't gonna need these old eyes for this resurrection. That's gonna be one hell of a line. I'll be the one slightly off center. I might be facing the wrong way. 32. Thy will be done. 33. No more of us, stunned and silent on the skin of this sea, this thunderous wet. We bob and bounce and spin slow, draped in an odd sparkle. 34. The under-earth turns its face to us. Leave them. Thank you. I have one more piece. Thank you so much for this stage and this audience. I love it here, and I'm right down the street. And when you do a book like this, anybody who's done a poetry book will tell you that part of the challenge is arranging the book so that the long poems and the short poems aren't too close, and the funny poems and the serious poems. But when you're tackling an issue like Katrina, there are no funny poems. I tried my best. My husband at the time was an editor at Associated Press, so he was bringing me photographs that they couldn't run in the newspaper for whatever reason, and mostly because they were too graphic to run. And so some of the things that I wrote about, I got from those papers. So the poem that's in the poems that are in The Voice of the Dog, I got after seeing a picture of a dead dog draped over a power line. So I got one picture that I thought was funny enough to write about, and it was a transvestite sloshing his/her way home with a skirt, and the skirt was hefted up, and under the skirt was just, everything was just swinging, and I was like, oh. So I wrote that poem, and this one, which I kind of created to make funny, I think. Katrina's a woman, so I started to think, well, who is her family? And the natural place to look would be to look at the other hurricanes of 2005. So as you know, there's an A to Z list every year, and as they occur, they check the hurricanes off, and every 5 years the list reoccurs. And unless there's been a certain amount of death and damage, and then that name is retired forever, so there will never be another Hurricane Katrina. But I thought, okay, well, who's her family? And I was going to write it serious, and then I thought, it'd probably be one of the last poems in the book, so let me see what I could do with her brothers and sisters. So this is called Siblings. Okay. Oh, sorry, I have to take a drink. Arlene learned to dance backwards in heels that were too high. Brett prayed for a shaggy mustache made of mud and hair. Cindy just couldn't keep her windy legs together. Dennis never learned to swim. Emily whispered her gust into 1,000 skins. Franklin, far-sighted and anxious, bumbled villages. Gert spat her matronly name against the city's flat face. Harvey hurled a wailing child high. Irene, the baby girl, threw wild tantrums. Jose liked the whip sound of slapping. Lee just craved the whip. Maria's thunder skirts flew high when she danced. Nate was mannered and practical. He stormed precisely. Ophelia nibbled weirdly on the tips of depressions. Felipe slept too late, flailing on a wronged ocean. Rita was a vicious flirt. She woke Felipe with rumors. Stan was born business, a gobbler of steel. Tammy crooned country, getting the words all wrong. Vince died before anyone could remember his name. Wilma opened her maw wide, flashing rot. None of them talked about Katrina. She was their odd sister, the Blood Dazzler. Thank you all very, 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 very much.